Hi, kitty cats. I am performing live without a net here. I'm going to do an Ask Me Anything. And I wanted to, but let me start off with saying why I wanted to do this. I mentioned in a video earlier this week, I went to New York this week because I'm actually consulting on a criminal case against a transgender man. And one of the things that struck me when talking with the attorneys is that there's a tremendous amount of like uncertainty on what being transgender even is. And I was even just talking to a friend of mine, the guy who lives next door to me, who said, because I mentioned, I knew long ago that I was transgender and that I was going to transition. And he said, "You've got to be kidding me. You knew this 20 years ago?" And so I knew it 40 years ago. And the thing is that we don't, for the most part, the transgender community is nothing more than misunderstood. People don't understand what it's like to be transgender, what it means to be transgender, and really what the process is. So I've now given my little preface here. Even in the justice system, there's a lot of just uncertainty. What is actually going on with us in the transgender community? So what I want to do is answer questions. So I have a question here from somebody named Hi Guys. Which do you think has a stronger suction capability, Dyson V11 or Kamala Harris? Do you remember when I started off by saying a lot of people don't understand the process, what it means to be transgender? I mean, I appreciate, the joke there. And for what it's worth, I would really appreciate, some actual questions. You want to know what it means to be transgender? Because I'm not going to talk about politicians in particular, but I will talk about other things. How about we'll talk about when I did start knowing that I was transgender. Ooh, actually, here's a good question too. Just Dottie has asked, "What is a woman?" This is an excellent question. And I guess the first thing I want to do, just Dottie, actually, because I want to illustrate a point here. If I were to throw out some characteristics, and you tell me whether they're masculine or feminine, hopefully you're still there. So I'm going to ask this question of you. If I were to say high heels, tall high heels, long luxurious hair, and lavish makeup, what kind of characteristics are these? Are these masculine or are they feminine? I got something from Trashboat who says, "You love my hair." Thank you. I slept on it. I appreciate that. So those of you listening, if I told you lavish makeup, long luxurious hair, and high heels, are these masculine or are they feminine characteristics? Most people would go, well, those are clearly feminine characteristics. But what you didn't do is ask me when. Because if you look at pre-revolution France, those are actually very, very, those were highly masculine characteristics. So when we say what is a woman is a term of gender, not of sex. And gender has a context associated with it. But here we go. Ooh, Trashboat says typically feminine, but it's all about the personality and confidence worn with it. That was an excellent answer. I appreciate that. So Just Dottie says, "I'm asking you what is a woman, not what is dressing up." Okay. There's an excellent point that somebody made to me once. What are women's clothing? It's clothes that women wear. What's a woman's haircut? So Just Dottie, if you're trying to divorce dressing up from being a woman, I guess I'm a little unsure where to go. Because what I believe in my theory of identity and gender is that gender has 4 major components, one of which is physical. But then there's also the cognitive aspect, there's the behavioral aspect, and there's also a spiritual aspect, how we see ourselves in relationship to the universe. So what is a woman is somewhat of a complicated question to answer because it is context dependent. So let me see. I have a keyword theory, not fact. Not sure what that means. My alternate reality is not reality. Okay, fair enough. I have a question. What system? Oh, this is a great question. Hang on. Sinner says, I have a question. What system would I propose for the contentious subject of trans athletes? I actually just released a video yesterday, Sinner, if you want to go to my profile page. It's a transgender joy video in which I talk about the San Jose State University women's volleyball team. And there's somebody who actually is not even admitted to being transgender. It's very interesting that they keep on being protested, and we're not even actually clear whether this person's transgender or not. But the point I'm going to get to here is that I believe that we irrationally segregate people by immediately obvious primary sex characteristics. Do you have a penis? Do you have a vagina? But does that have to do with capability? Not necessarily. There are women who are far taller than I am who probably have a far better vertical leap and could spike like, mad on me. So I don't know. Should I be able to play against those people? Should they be able to play against me? And so it's an interesting question. A system that I would propose is really just based on capability. There are women boxers who will beat the bejesus out of me, despite being assigned male at birth. So I know that's not a phenomenal answer, but I hope that that's a start. I believe it's important for us to look at capability, not necessarily physical structure. So I do have there's another question here. I do want to bring it up. Where is this? Oh, Elo Monka says, no, it's not complicated. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that. Zombie Man says, is my DNA a different gender? No, not that gender. So here's the thing. DNA is genderless. I mean, DNA is in every, eukaryote. In fact, it's in every prokaryote. So DNA is not something that is gendered. So I'm not really sure where you're going with this. There is, at least in the human genome, chromosome pair 23, which is the one that has the sex chromosomes in it. Even then, King Simpleton says DNA is not genderless, despite being a simpleton. Well, that's interesting. So it turns out that there is one gene on a Y chromosome that may be expressed, and through that may irritate the mother into secreting testosterone, and that's how a zygote ends up developing reproductive organs, male reproductive organs. Because otherwise, both of you, Zombie Man and King Simpleton, you have the genetics within you to create female reproductive parts. Little bit of interesting factoid for you there. So, I just heard I believe. I guess I'm unsure what it was you did, but all right, let's see. What else do we have? I do have a good question. Some from Phoebe G. Have I played any Dragon Age games? I did. I played the very first one. It felt somewhat Diablo-like. Interestingly, in my Transgender Joy video yesterday, I talk about how Dragon Age the Veilguard allows you to have a transgender character. And I think that's good, personally. I think that's fascinating that somebody would that a company would want to put that kind of representation into it. It's not like transgender people haven't been using role-playing games to explore identity and gender, since the original Dungeons and Dragons. So let's see. Trashboat says, people think trans people don't understand bio-identities. They do, but they choose thriving in life. So my background, for anybody who's wondering, my early educational background, I started off as a molecular biologist at University of California, San Diego. And so I studied plenty of genetics. I studied plenty of biochemistry, less human development, but that's my background. And so if you're going to ask me questions about biology, I'm more than qualified to answer them, because truly it is basic science. And if you're missing that, then, ask me the question. So let me see. I'm going to go, Jim, I'm going to take this question in a second. Jim asks the question, do I think gender dysphoria is a mental illness? But I want to go with what Phoebe's got here. So it's a bit Phoebe says it's a bit ridiculous how there's so much upset about the top surgery scars. Frankly, I guess I don't know. I have not played Veilguard yet. You know, sooner or later scars go away. I mean, my scars surgical scars have gone away. So, sure, is it ridiculous? I guess I don't have a good opinion on that. But so, Eli, good to see you. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are. All right, go back to Jim. Do I think gender dysphoria is a mental illness? Gender dysphoria is a condition currently listed in DSM-5, but all of the conditions listed in DSM-5 are not considered pathologies, that is, sicknesses, unless they disrupt normal life. And of course, normal is patient dependent, right? I mean, alcoholism is also something in DSM-5, and there are people who can drink a bottle of Jack Daniels every night and never, that clearly appears to be alcoholism, but if it isn't disrupting their life, do you call that an illness? Hard to say. So the quick answer here is I believe everybody experiences gender dysphoria. You did too, Jim. In fact, you may experience it daily. But when it starts to disrupt your life, like it did mine, and apparently Phoebe over here on YouTube, then it becomes a pathology it becomes a condition that needs to be addressed. Anyway, certainly. So let's see. All right, Sebastian T says, I'm out. So much stupidity is enough for today. So that's good. I mean, I'm glad that, already I'm being given hate for actually trying to answer questions. Thanks, Sebastian. All right. Albeit says, anyone can choose to identify as any gender or genders whenever they want, no rules whatsoever. This is a question. No, if you were listening earlier, what I said was that there are 4 components to identity as well as gender. I knew that I was transgender by the time I was 4, maybe 5. Hi, Erica. And, but it took until I was 52 before I started changing the way I looked, so that now I present this way. That doesn't mean I was not transgender before I was 52. There's a distinction between our identity and the way that we present our identity to the world. So hopefully that was enough for you on that one. Do I remember when the Democrats voted for slavery? So an interesting tidbit here, Michael Tucker. I am not registered Democrat. I don't know if you, Albeit says, let's talk about biomarkers. Okay, let's talk about biomarkers. Throw me some thoughts there. Albeit. Wow. The answer is yes. Whoops. Why is gender dysphoria primarily only in America? This is a phenomenal question. So I ended up going this past summer. If you look at my all the work that I've done on TikTok at this point, the biggest part that I've done is going to Thailand to get gender-affirming surgery. Now, the reason why I did this, there's 2 reasons. First, my insurance claim was denied because my insurance company said that it was not a life-threatening disorder that I needed that I didn't need surgery. So I went to Thailand. Now, I started doing research about Thailand, and they have a culture in Thailand called Kathoey culture. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it properly. But the first written account of Kathoey culture was from 1296. So 1296, Adam Voss. I just want to make sure that you're getting that. That's 750 years ago. Is now the reason why you would Kathoey culture. I probably should have defined that. It translates loosely as lady boy. This is a transgender woman culture in Thailand that's been around for 750 years. Primarily in America? No, our politicians make it out like it's a big, huge thing. Western culture makes it out like it's a big, huge thing, but I don't think that that's because it's true. It's because Western culture wants to run some of this, wants to run some of the rhetoric around untruth having to do with sex and gender. So, all right. So it's Kathoey, K-A-O-E-Y, I believe. Kathoey, I believe. Thank you, Phoebe, for asking. But it's Thai, just look up ladyboy or Thai transgender culture. All right. Let's see. Adam Voss says it's not. Sorry, Hilda Diane. Hi, Hilda, by the way. Replies to Adam saying it's not. It's more visible because it's more accepted. Actually, Hilda, I would say it's not more accepted. When I was in Thailand, nobody batted an eye at me. Like, it was absolutely truth. Anthony Lacano 695 says that's incorrect, that everybody suffers. Very false. I'm guessing you mean gender dysphoria, and I do not see Anthony still here. But let me explain this. I imagine when you were playing Little League or whatever you played, the short guy football, whatever it's called, you did something wrong, and I bet you felt bad. Like if you struck out when you were in Little League. I remember being in Little League, and even the best players on the team, they would strike out and they'd come back to the dugout and cry. And they cried because it's an expectation, a social norm that boys are going to be good at baseball, and they proved they were not. They failed to fulfill a social expectation. Now, is it a rational social expectation? No, because people strike out even in the major leagues. But we want to impress our parents. We're trying to establish our identity. And so that there, I believe, was an example of gender dysphoria. It goes away. Understand. I'm not saying that it doesn't go away. For some people, it goes away and then you go, there you go, I'm all done. For me, it did not. All right. Albeit says, let's talk about the biomarkers of gender identity. Okay. I mean, what do you want me to talk about? Because gender identity, again, since you're using the word identity, you're talking about something that extends past genetics. We absolutely do not, we're not dictated by our genetics, period. So let me see. I've missed a few things here. But let's see. Not every experience is suffering. That's why they said experience. Thank you, Trash Boats. All right, host, what biomarkers are necessary to identify as transgender? Biomarkers? Zip. Period. I'll tell you more about this. Not only will I say biomarkers are not necessary to identify as transgender, there are people out there who are going to tell me I've become more real of a transgender woman because I was able to afford gender-affirming surgery. But I think that's bullshit. You don't need to be able to spend money to make yourself more real as a transgender person. So biomarkers, I don't think there are any. But last week I did a big segment about how I don't like the word transgender anyway. So, hey there, Be the Change. Good to see you too. Call me beautiful. That's lovely. Adam Voss says we need Jesus in this country. Let me tell you, we got a plenty of Jesus. What we could use is a little bit of science. Just saying. All right. What do we got? Phoebe. Oh, Bobby, thank you so much. Love this. Thank you. That's very kind of you. All right. King Simpleton says, but at 4 or 5, were my parents telling you that, wow, were my parents telling me that I was that way? No. No. In 1974? You really think so? No. That's because identity doesn't have to do necessarily with your parents. Identity is at least born somewhat inside you. Because King Simpleton, if I were to ask you what your favorite vegetable is, would I be able to tell you you're wrong? Of course not. That's something you know. And I happen to know who I was even by the time I was 4 or 5 years old. So, all right, let me see. I'm gonna jump past some of these talking points. You are claiming everyone suffers. That's false. I already got that one. If it's not an illness, it's not medically necessary, therefore insurance not covering it. Makes sense. Jim, I want to talk about that, and I swear I'll come back to you, Phoebe. If it isn't an illness, it's not medically necessary, therefore insurance not covering it. Makes sense. So here's the thing. We have gotten to a point, and this is Western society in particular. Western society looks at everything. You have to have a pathology. I find that ridiculous. If you don't feel well, I mean, there's a lot of women out here who are probably going to identify this. You can go to the doctor and you say, I don't feel well, and maybe they're going to end up going, you know what? Hey, I want to test if you're pregnant, and then I'm going to tell you to lose some weight. just because something is not a pathology doesn't mean it shouldn't be addressed. And furthermore, who defines what's a pathology? DSM has moved glacially slowly in terms of, because I mean, it was not even all that long ago. Gosh, I think even in the 1970s, homosexuality was still considered a disorder in DSM-3. So, like, you tell me, Jim, there's a distinction between not feeling well and, medically necessary. So let me see here. Where are we going? Let me see. People claim to hate trans people, but it shows they care, by the way. They talk so much about them. That's what it is, Trash Boat. We 100%. Thank you so much, everybody, for caring about me. I really love that. All right, let's see. Lots of bots. Hi, Tom. Hi, Tom. Who's Tom? Mac calls me the enemy. Yikes. That's a bummer. Adam Voss says, let me guess you're voting Dem. I already said I wasn't going to talk about politics, so there you go. Fred McMurray. Wow, Fred McMurray. Gosh, I loved some of your movies when I was a kid. Says, sir, I don't agree with you. I'm not sure with whom Fred is disagreeing, but not me, of course, because my pronouns are she, her. All right, let's see. Thailand, the land of smiles. Okay, I'm going to move down through some of these. If I miss your comment, please feel free to say it again. But let's see. King Simpleton has now asked, I heard gender-affirming surgery, you can't feel things any longer and it gets infected. No. Let me tell you. I've had many, many orgasms, all right? Things look great down there. Things feel great down there. And I will tell you, when I have an orgasm, it is all of the good and it is none of the bad. I don't even know how better to put that. It is truly amazing. So, all right, let's see. Kable, hopefully I'm saying it right. Willow Face says she cares about me. Thank you. Kable says purple hair looks good. Thank you. Who knows? All right, going back to YouTube here. Let's see. Yeah, Phoebe, so it's interesting that I don't like the word transgender. I would love to explain. Hi, Raphael. Hello. Thank you, says I rock. Big hugs to Sapphire. Hopefully you mean my cat. All right. Untreated gender dysphoria can easily lead to other issues, Phoebe says. So this is a great point. I think it was Jim or King Simpleton. I'm not sure who it was. Absolutely. I mentioned a pathology is when life gets disrupted. And so as a result, there's no doubt that untreated gender dysphoria leads into other things. Depression is a huge one. Anxiety, oftentimes dissociative disorders. So there you go. All right. King Simpleton is lost. I'm sorry. All right. Be the Change says, I'm a great human. So sad to see this hate. This is the way it works. This is why I do these AMAs, because I think it's important to acknowledge the hate and then talk about it. Because if I don't, then maybe King Simpleton's going to go away and think, every gender-affirming surgery gets infected and there's no orgasm. So that's ridiculous. So, hey, Siri, yeah, normal people deal with those mental ailments as well. Very true. You know why? Transgender people are absolutely normal. How about that? All right, going back to Phoebe here. Because Phoebe says, explain why I don't like the word transgender. The two prefixes, cis and trans, I mentioned I was a scientist, right? My background's chemistry. Cis and trans actually relate to something called cis-trans isomerism in chemistry, in organic chemistry in particular. Cis-trans isomerism describes a carbon-carbon double bond. And cis and trans were used because cis means on the same side of, and trans means on the opposite side from. And so when you have two, I don't know how that's turning out, when you have two carbons that are double bonded, they can't rotate. And so it makes a difference where those things are. Are they on the same side of these two or on the other side of these two? Oof, having a hard time with my hands. So it makes a difference because chemically those could be very different compounds. They look the same. Their chemical makeup is the same. But our body, but especially in biochemistry, it could make a very big difference. So cis and trans come from that. The point is that those two carbons are absolutely related. So cis and trans, describing things around those two carbon atoms, makes sense using those because there is an absolute relationship between those two carbons. But transgender implies that you have somebody whose gender does not match their sex. And I have spoken many, many times about the distinction between sex and gender because they are not the same. One has to do with a species level characteristic that only applies to reproduction. And the other, gender, is an individual level implementation of your genetics, your biochemistry, your social environment, your ability to exist within it. So if sex and gender are not related, then the two words cisgender and transgender are kind of meaningless because they only make sense if sex and gender were related. So thank you, Phoebe, for that question. I'm glad that hopefully that worked. So, all right, let's see. Willow Faye, thank you. Please be respectful, saying I'm amazing. Thank you. It was so great. Allison McDonald, I'm smart. Well, I'm not sure, but thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hey Siri, call 911. At what age does your brain fully mature? Excellent question. By the time you're about 12 weeks from fertilization, from ovum fertilization, you have a significant amount of the neurons that you're going to carry through the rest of your life. You actually have more neurons when you're born. An infant has more neurons when you're born than an adult does. And it's not because you went and got drunk too many times in college, although I'm sure that contributed to what happened with me as well. But what it means is that as a child, you prune away neurons because that's how you build neural pathways. So at what age does your brain fully mature? I'm going to tell you never, because you actually have the ability to rebuild neural pathways at 80 years old. So, we can say, well, you're more or less mature by mid-20s. But what is more or less mature? It really makes very, very little sense. So Joel Morris says they are the same. Presumably you're saying sex and gender. And this is why I do these AMAs, Joel Morris, because you're wrong. And I have a video that I have on YouTube, Sex versus Gender, that explains it. Despite the fact that we use the word sex in the way that we mean gender, it doesn't mean it's scientifically accurate. So that's where you go. Hey Siri, call 911 also says, why are children being enabled to make permanent physical changes to their existence? Wow. Well, I'll tell you, hey Siri, I am a member of WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, and the Standards of Care, version 8, prohibit children from making these from being enabled to make these choices. So you'll have to tell me how children are being enabled, first of all, before I can answer your question at the end. Ironic talking about them not being related, but they are related. Again, I guess we're talking sex and gender. It's really important, actually, that people understand this distinction. So I'm actually going to, before I do this, Skank Hunt 42 has asked, why did my dad leave when I was a kid? I'm not even gonna touch that. So here we go. Sex versus gender. I'm going to do this in a couple of minutes here, and hopefully you'll like this. Hey Siri, because let's see. Early biologists, certainly pre 1900s, early biologists started looking for ways to define species, and the first thing they looked at was how does reproduction occur, and so you can have species that are able to reproduce with only one organism, or species that take two or more organisms to reproduce. And so that's asexual reproduction, and then there's sexual reproduction. Within sexual reproduction, there was another simple way of determining, of making a distinction between how you contributed to reproduction. This is not universal, but most of the species biologists have observed create one of two gametes. And gametes are little packages of genetics that combine to make a zygote, and there you go. Usually you had one relatively small and motile gamete, and they defined that as a sperm, and those who made sperm were defined as male. And then you have a relatively large and stationary gamete that was defined as an ovum, and those who made those, the organisms that made those, were defined as female. Now, relatively quickly, biologists also discovered that there are organisms that can make both sperm and ova. There are a ton of plants that can do this. Most trees actually can make pollen as well as cones. Most flowers have stamens, pistils, and stamens, and so for the most part, so how do you characterize those is the question. Because it's one thing to say I make sperm, I make ova, but it's different when you have species that can do both. There are also species, in particular in the Great Barrier Reef, that will change. There are species that are sequentially hermaphroditic, that they start off female and they turn male, or vice versa. And so the point is that sex was too little. It's not enough just to say, you make sperm, you make ovum. It's not enough. It also depends upon the social pressures. It also depends upon the individual implementation of genetics for that organism, for each organism. And so biologists made up a new word, gender, which describes each individual organism's genetic makeup, biochemical makeup, and then how they end up interacting within their social environment. So that was like 2 minutes worth of sex versus gender, just from a biologist standpoint. And there you go. Hopefully that was well done. But there you go. So Hey Siri says I'd better say 25 SMH. Okay, I mean I did. So I guess run with that. What will you do? So I'm so thankful for our brain's abilities. I'd be much more thankful if other people's brains started kicking in, right? So there you go. All right. It's illegal for parents to intervene with hormone therapy in Oregon. At what age? And not before 16. So there you go. All right. If body parts, oh gosh. Here's user 2633. I'm not even going to name all the numbers. If body parts don't determine gender, then why does cutting them off affirm it? This is an excellent question. I think if you had asked me that question 4 months ago, which is before I got gender affirming surgery, I don't know that I would have this same answer. Gender, like I said, is not only physical structure. It also has to do with your cognition, how you think, the emotions that you have, with your behavior, so the way that you act within your social environment. But your social environment informs much of this, and because your behavior, you don't act in certain ways except for the way that your social environment, reinforces or rejects. You don't tend to look the way that you do without influence from the social environment. I already brought up the point about changing social environments. The context matters, that there were feminine characteristics today that would have been very masculine in pre-revolution France. So let me go back to it. If body parts don't determine gender, then why does cutting them off affirm it? I spent 52 years, 54. There we go. Because I was 54 when I got gender affirming surgery. I spent 54 years ashamed of what was between my legs. Apparently I only have one. And so my point here is that I didn't really realize that until they were gone. I spent a lot of energy just hating those parts. And now that I don't have to worry about them, I actually have a whole lot of energy that I've devoted elsewhere. I've learned so much more about myself because I don't have to worry about these parts. It's really fascinating. So to answer your question, if body parts don't determine gender, then why do they cut them off? Same reason why getting a nice haircut might make you feel better. Same reason why sometimes you pick up a sweater, or your Aunt Zilda sends you a sweater and you put it on, you go, I never thought I would like this, but hey, what do you know? It's the same thing, because physical structure doesn't define all of identity. And so physical structure as a contributor certainly can make a difference to how you feel as a person. So, what dies says, go get another vaccine. I'm not really sure what that even means, but okay, whatever. Bethany Marie Gregory. I think I missed. Oh, gender stereotypes are a human creation. Okay. Yes and no. I mean, I'm going to go with largely yes. If you look at Judith Butler's gender theory, absolutely. Obviously, they talk about gender as a social construct. The thing is that as a social construct, that does give it the ability to morph, and so that you end up with the ability for pre-revolution France to mirror, Western, but the genders flip, gender presentation flips. So yes, in some ways I agree, but I don't believe that only society determines who we are. I think that takes out a lot of our own choice. And it's a fascinating thought, because when I was in Thailand, there were these two guys. It was an amazing thing. There were these two guys who seemed to advertise everything. I don't know what it was. It's like, here's an neti pot. I've got toothbrush. Same guys. Anyway, I was walking through a mall in Bangkok at the very end of it, and I was getting ready to go. And I saw this one guy, and he's wearing makeup, and I thought, you know what? If I had grown up in Thailand today, would I still feel the dysphoria that I do? And it's a good question. I think that if I had been in a social environment that would have appreciated who I was, as opposed to trying to stick me into boxes, which, to go back to what somebody had asked me before about mental illness, is if we always have to stick things into boxes, then we have to find a box. And I think if I had not been forced to be put in a box, then maybe I would have been different. So it's a good question about gender stereotypes. Jada, I don't know if you're still here. Jada with a gray heart asked me, what's my gender? I identify as a transgender woman. My pronouns are she, her. What's my gender? My gender is an individual implementation made up of my genetics, my biochemistry, my cognition, my behavior, all of which is expressed within my social environment. So, Johnny Zion says, listening to a podcast on that topic last night, hopefully one of mine. Mr. Skull asks me, am I comparing humans to fish? Yes. And there's a reason why, because humans are not divorced from nature. Humans are absolutely part of nature. And biology doesn't have, we don't have like different rules of biology for humans that we do with fish. The definitions of sex and gender are at the biology level, not the species level. So, yes, it's appropriate to compare humans to fish, just because Western society has been largely informed by a religion that claims that humans are above in some way, that nature is in some way subservient to humans, doesn't make it accurate. So, all right. Matt, I do see you here. Hi, Matt Adland. Hi. Some people lack the requisite equipment to have a headache. Do you know I didn't know that? Holy cats. To have a headache? Like, that's awesome. So, Jada, you're confused on a couple things. Okay, I'd love to hear more, Ada. Trash Boat, you've been considering top surgery. I'll tell you, oh my gosh, there are so many comments here. Whoopsie daisies. So here we go. Considering top surgery. I'll tell you, I don't know if you are trans femme or trans masc. I did not intend to get top surgery, but having gone to Thailand where everything was much less expensive, I ended up doing it, and I gotta tell you, it really helped a lot. It was really tremendous. I didn't think it was going to make that much of a difference, but I also didn't think bottom surgery was going to make the hugest difference either, and it has. It's made very, very profound changes in my life, in my cognition. So let's see. Joel Morris says that's not the same analogy. Not really sure where he's going with this. Jess asks, why instead of fixing yourself, you are bullying woman? Okay. I guess I got to tell you, I'm not really sure what you mean. So I'm just going to let that go. There's somebody who has got to send like pig heads, I guess. Thanks, whatever. Who the hell knows? Let's see. Trash boats. Okay, boy, there's a lot of things going over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to YouTube. What the hell? So Phoebe says, having dysphoria, it feels like your real body is inside your actual body, if that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And I believe that gender dysphoria just goes outside. I mean, I think there's so much that has to do with gender dysphoria, because like when I was in industry, right? So I spent 25 years in the technology industry, including executive management in software companies. I was not able to talk with tech bros very well, and I didn't understand why until I really started transition and thought long and hard about it, because the thing is I don't want to behave that way, and I don't think that way. And so that's where cognition and behavior fit into that. I just couldn't be that person, I think is where I want to go. Because I couldn't be that person, I still think that's a type of gender dysphoria. My apologies, everybody there. But it didn't have to do with physicality. So it's an interesting point. So Phoebe also says we like to think we're divorced from nature. Oh, do we ever? You know, there's a good reason why we're facing tons of climate change and all kinds of things. So some user here says that purple hair says everything I need to know. Right? Right? If you can't trust a bint with purple hair, if you can't trust somebody so willing to express who she is about transgender, holy cats, you're right. Because I don't know if you're getting your facts about being transgender from Donald Trump. I don't believe that he's transgender. I'm a little unsure. So Bobby Mick, forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, says I started privately transitioning April 1st this year. Can I just send you a little heart there? Go you, sister. Are you Bobby McGee? It's like Bobby McGee, and one day I'll be in Salinas, and I'll let you slip away. But I will call you she. She's looking for her home, and I hope you find it, Bobby McGee. All right. There was my little Janis Joplin interlude there. Hopefully everybody enjoyed. There you go. I need to think about Jesus, somebody says. Okay, I'm a little unsure what you say. Willow, I totally need a moderator. I don't do this because, you know, it's interesting to me to allow people to show who they are in these comments. I really don't know why. Laszlo Hollyfield says, may God, oops, well, I missed it now, but said something about God have mercy on my soul sort of thing. And it's like, well, here's the point. I know that people will say that obviously something's wrong with me if I'm going against God's plan. And I guess the only thing I want to ask you is, are you that faithless that you don't think that your God could have a plan outside of your own small mind? Because, wow, it took Lady Gaga to write a song that says, God makes no mistakes, and I wholeheartedly believe that. I was made the way I was supposed to have been. It just so happened, if you want to put it this way, God gave me a particular body and a particular soul. But if you're so faithless that you can't believe your God could do something other than what your preachers tell you, you're not listening to God, you're listening to your preachers. The end. I wish I had a mic so I could drop it. All right. Read Leviticus 20:13, Cupcake. I happen to have written an article. Thank you, Cupcake, about bringing up Leviticus 20:13. And here's the point. Leviticus 20:13, there were a few Hebrew scholars whom I have spoken with. I don't know if you have, Laszlo, but Hebrew scholars who wholeheartedly impugn the translation that's used today. And so if you sure, go ahead and tell me, call me a cupcake, make fun of me. But guess what? If what you're doing is applying human, your human, your desires on top of what's supposed to be somebody else's literature, that's on you, not me. So Renee, I think it is maybe, says, you love how vibrant my hair is. Thank you. I put a lot of work into this. All right. Stunning stonework gives me a mic drop. Says, yes, queen. Thank you. Love that. All right. Blue hair will color me surprise. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, it's going to take me a moment to translate this here. Blue hair wall color me surprise. I love teachers with blue hair. They corrupt our kids. Yeah, I'm not going to I have no comment. There you go. Never mind. So, okay, let's see. I'm dreading Judgment. So Laszlo says I'm dreading Judgment Day. So actually, Laszlo, I'm not. Because I think I've made my peace with God. I have expressed everything that I was designed to express. I'm now doing this now, taking your hate and showing that this is the person you are. If you think that expressing hate to me is not a sin, I recommend you go talk to your religious leaders, because your religion is not supposed to be about hate. So there you go. All right, contributing to the collapse of the West. Contributing. What I'd like to do is stop the collapse of the West, because the collapse of the West, I think, has occurred by having religion thunk down into science. So that isn't working. So this is Judgment Day is going to be fun. It will. Laszlo Hollyfeld says, I obviously haven't read the entire Bible. Interestingly, I did. I considered going into I don't know the word for it, Lutheran seminary, whatever it is, I considered doing that when I was a kid, because I was so dedicated to spirituality. And it so turns out that, what I found by the time I was 13 was that there was so much hate and discrimination in the church, particularly where I was, and I think you're displaying it very well, Laszlo. So I thank you for that. That I decided against it. I did. So Momo says, "Ask me anything. Can you see a picture? Can you see a picture of me as a man?" I would be open to that. I don't know exactly how I could do that right now. Laszlo Hollyfeld now says, I obviously don't live its teachings. How many cheeks do I have to turn, Laszlo, before you recognize that what I am doing is living its teachings 100%? All right, let's see. So Marianne 3201. So Stunning Stonework says, thank you for supporting your family. I don't know what you said, Marianne. Unfortunately, I've missed what it was, because I'm too busy turning cheeks. So, all right, let's see. 88 says, I'm wearing a costume and threaten anyone who doesn't play pretend with you. By holding an AMA? Is that a threat? Oof. I think we need to figure out exactly who's threatening whom here. So there you go. All right, let's see. Bobby says, as a transgender woman, I know God loves me. Very true. I think that's the case. It's ridiculous to claim that a religion based in love would not accept everybody and how they present and how they act. So let's see. Mom saying I should be. Oh, okay. Let me see. Reading the whole Bible made me deconstruct. I'm now atheist. Tyler, an uncommon event. There we go. Laszlo says you'll pray for my lost soul. Thanks. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Ooh, so many things. Saying this is embarrassing is not hate. Nate 28 with your hate, just calling me embarrassing is not hate. I don't know that that's. I'm not sure that that's true. So let's see. What else do we have here? Aren't I a little old for the hair? No, absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was growing up, old ladies, like old ladies, I'm in my 50s now, okay? But old ladies, so I'm going to say like 70s, let's say, had purple hair and blue hair. I'm doing exactly what they were doing. If they weren't too old to it, neither am I, am I? So there you go. All right, Willow Faye says she is 32 and still do not feel comfortable in your own body. Ooh, I hear that. I get that. And if you want, Willow, please go ahead and reach out to me because, you know, it's not easy. By 32, I had looked into transition in Los Angeles, so that would have been 2000. That was 2002, but I started looking at it in 2001, and I wholeheartedly recommend it. Now, it was super hard in 2001. So I actually have a conversation with Louise Richardson. I don't know if Louise is here right now. That will be coming out in a couple of weeks, and she talks all about the transition process in the 1970s, and it was a great conversation. So quick plug there, Louise, if you're out there. Quick plug for you. All right, let's see. What do we got? That was just a slight twinge of blue, not overpowering purple. I have two words for you, and it's whoop-de shit. Why do you care about the way I look? Is that one word? Is whoop-de shit one word, or is that two? Is it three? Who knows? Why do you care about how I look? I mean, there are punkers out there right now with blue hair. I mean, I'm sure Andrew Eldritch, who is much older than I am, is still dyeing his hair blue-black. So whatever. I mean, feel free to dump on me. But see, this is why I do things like this. Do you realize how ridiculous your comment is? All right, let's see. Willow Faye. Okay, it's hard because you don't think anyone will respect you. I'm going to tell you. You can look at this, Willow Faye. I'm talking to you directly, okay? And I'm also going to give you a heart as well. You can look at these comments and say, you know what? You're right. Nobody respects transgender people, but I'm going to ask people on YouTube, people on TikTok, how much love do you get as a transgender person? Because I get a lot. When I first came out, when I was not at all presenting, there you go. Erica says, she does weird colors too, but don't call them weird. When I was first came out, I would go places and I'd say, listen, I need to change my name because it's part of the social transition thing, right? And I had women just hug me. They would just go, really? You're transitioning? Go you. I'm so glad of you. Or so glad for you. So glad that you can do these things. And it's very important that you look at this hate that you're looking at in TikTok. I don't know why it doesn't show up in the YouTube, why only YouTube shows up on this screen, but take all of this hate and see that it's a very, very small, exceptionally vocal minority, but is not everybody. For the most part, I get love. So there you go. You may think that people aren't going to respect you. Many people do, and many people will. Because do you know how hard it is to transition? It's really difficult. You can see all the people who are telling me I'm doing a bad thing, I'm going to hell, their God's coming after me, I'm being driven by big pharmaceutical, that people are I'm harming children. None of this is true. None of this is true. And I'm in a much better place. So it's very difficult to transition gender. And at the end of it, it's all so 100% worth it. So there you go. All right, here we go. I do have an interesting question here that I think is supposed to stump me. Joseph Serrano 981 says, do I believe biological males should compete with biological females? We're going to have to define biological male and biological female here, Joseph. When I was in Little League, since sex defines the gamete that you produce, when I was in Little League, I had not reached sexual maturity, in which case I was making no gamete. Was I a biological male? There are over 1,200 identified intersex characteristics. And the guess now is about 1 in 200 births every day presents at least one intersex characteristic. Many. Oh, thank you, Willow. I'm sorry I made you cry, but trust me, it's all you will be respected. I'll respect you. Over 1,200 intersex characteristics, 1 in 200, that is 40,000 children a day, are born with an intersex characteristic. Joseph Serrano, XX and XY chromosome, I'm going to point you to it like my last live stream. XX and XY do not define all of sex, period. It's just the way it works. So Danny says there's no such thing as genuine affirming care. I think you meant gender. Nothing can change any. You have got to just be pissed off that I've done all this then, aren't you? Oof. I'm bummed for you, honestly. I feel very bad. So I am very strong for pressing on against the haters. What else can you do? You can't do anything else. All right, Phoebe G, surely doing something to change your situation deserves some respect. And I wanted to read that to you, Willow. Yes, you do anything to change your situation deserves respect. Okay, Joseph Serrano. I understand if maybe you see XX and XY. It's an interesting tidbit here. I call this basic science. Your people tend to call this basic science too, somewhat ironically, because I was thinking about it, and I learned genetics, molecular biology, my biochemistry courses. These were third year of undergraduate at a major university, the University of California system. Third year biology. I'm going to guess, Joseph Serrano, I'm just going to take a guess. You have not taken a molecular biology course. You have not taken a human development course. You have not taken a genetics course. And what I'm calling basic science is something you haven't learned. And I'm okay with you not knowing this because ignorance is great. Ignorance means you can learn. If what you choose to do is remain ignorant, I got nothing more that I can say to you. It's really a bummer. But I can tell you having gone through, third year biology courses, you're wrong. The end. So Gary, aka Shy Guy, says males have an unfair advantage. I'm going to tell you something. Oh, and Ryan Young, you're also wrong. Sorry. So Gary, aka Shy Guy, males do not have an unfair advantage. I think it depends on what it is. Because let's look at Simone Biles. If you throw a male into what Simone Biles can do they necessarily have an advantage? The quick answer is no. It depends on what it is. Jesse Herod says, I'm in genetics now, and you're wrong. All right, let's talk about that, Jesse Herod. How about if you come into a podcast with me and explain to me what your genetics course says. It could well be that that you haven't gotten to that point. There you go. So Ryan Young says it is not ignorance, it's science. Lemo. Okay, I've got a Ph.D., Ryan Young. And I went through some of these courses. I mean, let's if you think you're going to whip it out, just believe me. You gave no evidence besides you're wrong because I went to a class. Well, so XXXY. So Jesse, I'd love to talk about this. It turns out, so the Y chromosome that a male can contribute to sexual reproduction has one gene on it. It's the SRY gene. I don't know if you've found the SRY gene just yet, Ryan Young, or Jesse. Sorry, Jesse. If you have, you'll see that the SRY gene is typically on the Y chromosome, but it doesn't have to be. The SRY gene has been seen to translocate from the Y chromosome actually to the allosomes. So that's chromosomes 1 through 22. It's the ones that determine the rest of your biochemistry. So only chromosome 23, pair 23, is supposed to be your sex chromosomes. So if the SRY gene, which is the thing that generates SRY protein that stimulates the mother to generate testosterone to stimulate the zygote to create male reproductive parts, can translocate to one of chromosomes 1 through 22, then I guess that's not science, is it? Because you can have an XY genotype and have an an androgen insensitivity syndrome so now you have female reproductive parts. You can have an XX genotype, and if the SRY gene has translocated to the X chromosome or an allosome, then you can have male reproductive parts. So, run with what you got, but believe me, you're not accurate. Let's see. Survival of the fittest doesn't mean doing flips on a mat. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Why the purple hair? Can't you do a natural hair color? No. Who the hell cares? Wow. All right. Chosen One says, what about us hermaphrodites? Hermaphrodism is an interesting little tidbit there. So let's see. Hermaphrodism is only one of, like I said, over 1,200 identified intersex characteristics. There are many, many more. Most of them are endocrinological, biochemical. You cannot see them. In fact, you don't generally know that until that you have one of these intersex characteristics until you find out, because it presents as a pathology, like an interesting tidbit. And I'll throw this out here because why not? When I first went to a gender affirming clinic, they take a test before they put you on hormone therapy. They wanted to know my two levels, my estrogen level, my testosterone level. And my testosterone level was exceptionally high for somebody who was 52 years old, especially since I got the test done later in the day. So, oh, Jesse, okay, thanks. Okay. Listen, I don't want to just argue with people and say you're wrong. I appreciate... Actually, Jesse, I'm sorry I missed that. I'm going to stop what I'm saying for one quick moment. Jesse, you said you respect me as a person. No hate. I apologize. I didn't see that. Thank you so much. I would love to have this conversation more. I have a video, if you want to reach out to me, I have a video on YouTube that talks about the SRY gene, that talks about the human genome, the SRY gene, and its possibility of translocation. If you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to send you a link. So just wanted to throw that out there. All right, I'm actually past 2 o'clock, which is when I was going to end, but I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple more questions here. I forgot what I was talking about before, but, hermaphrodism. So intersex characteristics are very interesting. So Joseph, you're saying I'm explaining the exception, not the rule. No, genetics is very, very messy. It's very, very messy. Over 1,200 intersex characteristics. 1,200. Do you know how many genes there are in the human genome? It's 20,000 to 30,000. So we're talking about as much as 5% of the human genome could be just intersex. Now, that only has to do with sex characteristics. If what you want to talk about is just biochemistry, genetics, it gets very, very messy. Now you have the rest of the 20,000 to 30,000 genes in the genome to consider. The other thing that I'll say about this is, of those 20 to 30,000 genes, the point is that those represent somewhere on the order of about 10 to 12% of the actual full set of base pairs in the human genome. The rest of that, we don't even know what they do. What the process I speak of is a genetic mutation. Joseph, what I speak of actually is just standard evolution. That's recombination of genes. You have two, that's actually four, but you have two parents who contribute genetics and they come together. It's not a genetic mutation. It's just genetics. It's not mutation. And by the way, Joseph, you have probably many, many cells in your body with mutations in them because they happen all the time. Mutation is not an uncommon occurrence. Louise, I read that just as I took a drink. Louise says she's wearing her jeans. I'm wearing a skirt today, but, go with that. Joseph, when I hope so you said, thanks for my answer. Hopefully that said anything. I think that's kind of the, genetics is a very messy thing. And we want to pretend like it's very, very clear that it's XY, XX, and it just isn't. It makes 0.0 difference Because there are plenty of exceptions to all of this. So there you go. We are just a clump of cells. All right. I mean, if that's the way you want to look at yourself, you live it up. I look at myself as a being, not only a body, but also the thoughts that I have, my ability to talk with this, to talk with you, my behavior. You'll notice I haven't gotten mad at anybody. I haven't yelled at anybody. I've been very respectful with everybody, including as you're yelling at me and being disrespectful to me. I'd like to think that defines me a bit more than just a clump of cells. So, all right, let's see. The Lord made man and woman, nothing else. I'm a woman. I didn't say that's necessarily wrong. All right, live it up. All right. No, that's what you guys say to defend baby death. You guys. What did anybody here talk about abortion? Like, how'd this even come in? What in the world? All right, let's see. All right, some people have the emotional intelligence of first grade bullies on a playground or something. The thing is that they do. And that's sort of the thing. All right, Sin Esther, this is lovely, says, it's true. By the way, Esther, I love the last name. I tend to prefer ethers over esters, but, organic chemistry being a weeder course for biology, there you go. Ethyl esters are even more fun. Do you have a sister Ethyl Esther, Sin Esther, and Ethyl Esther? Or do you have an anti-ester? You have a brother anti-ester? Okay, I'm done with my cheap chemistry or organic chemistry jokes. All right, genetics is super complicated. It's not a simple process. So let's see. CM Kelly asks, do I support abortion, aka baby death? I mentioned at the beginning of this AMA that I'm not going to talk about political things. I am talking about science, and I'm talking about psychology, and I'm talking about philosophy. So I will not answer that one, sorry. Let's see. Not all abortions end with a baby death. I'm not even sure where any of that's going, so I'm going to let it go. Duder, hey Duder, says it really isn't complicated. I'm curious, Duder, where your evidence is of that. It'll be interesting. Sin was going for sinister. How in the world did I miss that? I am left-handed, by the way. Sinister, of course, meaning on the left. So, all right, talking about Fantasyland. Andrew has said that my voice is the same. Apparently, Andrew knew me before I took any sort of voice lessons. But there you go. All right. I wonder if I should bother, continuing to listen to these. I first, for a while there, I was getting some good things, but now we're talking about Trump, and I'm not really sure that I... Okay, let me see. Nope, I don't know who that is. So, all right. Anything else? Does anybody have a good, a nice question to ask me here? Let's see. Not talking religion. I wish some of these things I've missed, and that's the thing. Somebody has asked me why I dress like my mom. Do you know my mother? First of all, my mother doesn't have purple hair. That's a bummer. Yeah, maybe maybe I would like her better if she did. But she also doesn't wear clothes like this. I tend to wear a lot of skirts because I like skirts. My mother tends to wear a bunch of pants. And so there you go. That's how it goes. All right. I'm at 2:08 here. So let's see. I'm going to go with you on this, Kyle C2000. It is kind of rude to pray for somebody without knowing my faith, but for what it's worth, and I'm going to throw this out here and get a good amount of hate for this, I believe that pretty much all gods are the same. And so they're all part of a universal deity. So if you pray to one, I think you're praying to most of all of them. So there you go. Tim is best 12 says, I would. Holy cats. You see, I told you. All I had to do was throw one bit out about paganism and somebody's going to jump on me and say, look at you. See, you horrible, horrible person, right? All right. Why is my hair purple? Drake Wright asks. So, see, there's this thing, Drake. It's called cosmetic chemistry. It's true. And somebody made a dye that was purple. And I put it on my hair. I'm sorry, Drake. I'm making fun of you, and I apologize. That's why my hair is purple. Ryan Young says science XXXY. Apparently, Ryan, you've not been listening, and that's a bummer. I don't, I'm not sure what else to throw at you, but there you go. So, all right. So Sin says, I am so strong to put up with all the with all the hate. There we go. In the chat, they always come when the truth is out. Yeah, it's a good point. Ryan says it's facts versus opinions, feelings. Agreed. I'm the one with the facts. I appreciate you for bringing that out. Oh, actually, this is interesting. Actually, Drake, thank you for following up. Because you know what? If I had been a jerk to me, if I had given the answer I gave you, I probably would have said F off and I would have left. So thank you. What's my personal reason for having purple hair? So my name, I don't know if you see it. My name is Amethysta. And I took the name Amethysta because I like, I've always loved purple my whole life. And gems, I like gems, first of all. Because gems, like, you can't melt those down. Like, if you had gold coins, if you're a king, melt something down, you've got a goblet, then they decapitate you, you can melt it down, make new coins, right? So I like gems because if you break those up, no more gem. Like if you have the Hope Diamond and you cut that up, now you have dirt. So you don't have the Hope Diamond anymore. So I like gems. So I named myself Amethysta after a purple gem. And I never intended to dye my hair purple. I had my stylist. We were like, what would happen? What would see? And I thought, worst case scenario, I'll take it out pretty quickly. And I actually liked how it looked. I was very surprised at how it turned out. And now people see my name and they go, right, well, with the whole purple hair. And so there you go. Username has said, you have zero facts. Your entire argument is based on emotions. Okay, I'm just going to run with that. What's the fact? You're not even listening to me, you goof. All right, let's see. So this is a really interesting question. Phoebe G has said, has my scientific study changed your religious beliefs in any way? I'm going to say no. I called myself an atheist by about 13, all right? And it wasn't until I think it was 41, 42 that I started looking at spirituality again at all. And one thing that I had finished up all of my study by that time. One of the things that I've noticed, though, at least certainly more recently, because we had somebody here who said, you can't compare humans to fish. Well, according to biologists, you certainly can, because biology isn't about a species. Biology is about biology. It's about living things. And so I started thinking about that. Much of our politics, and I think much of our science now, has been colored by the way that religion has become part of society. Because I think about it like this. As we were going into the Renaissance, we were just coming out of a period where if you were a scientist, you'd be described as a magician, burned at the stake, that's the end of you. So people would come to conclusions that would not get you burned at the stake. So I believe that there's a lot of science, truly science, that we have in the West here that is based on ultimately this fear that if you speak truth, you're going to end up being destroyed. I'm not going to mention very long how many people in my TikTok comments have said I'm going to hell, yada, yada. I'm speaking about science, but I'm being destroyed by religion. Well, they think they're destroying me. I'm still here, but running with this. So did it change my religious beliefs? It did not. But I do believe that religious beliefs have contributed a lot to science because, this whole deal of XXXY that I've talked about now over and over and over, there's a verse in Genesis, forgive me, I don't remember what it was, but it says in some translations, God created male and female. These are two terms defined by science. Probably were not in the Hebrew at the time Moses was purported to have written Genesis, but are now in the translation into English, probably from Hebrew into the Latin, which went to the German and then into the English. So it's gone through a couple of incarnations there. So anyway, we're now seeing religion justifying science so that the science can justify religion. And at the end of it all, science has nothing to do with male and female. Science has to do with asking questions. And the idea that somebody would just go, well, there is only this period. Oh boy, like that's a bummer. You're not a scientist. So let's see. I can't. Oh, let's see. Oh no, that's somebody who's saying good, something good. Thank you, Sushi. Hi, Sushi. I don't know exactly who you are, but thank you so much. Okay, some things considered magic are. So this is a great point. Magic is science we don't yet understand. And by the way, hi, Kay. It used to be that, yeah. I mean, the thing is that we used to look at rivers. Why did rivers run? Well, it was a goddess. Right? That's all there is. Why did the rain fall? There must be a god or a goddess. We anthropomorphized nature, and personally, I believe that there are gods and goddesses, and I'm not going to go into that point. But there are things. I mean, even if you look relatively recently, I don't remember exactly what it was. 1904, 1905, Albert Einstein wrote 3 major papers, only one of which was about special relativity. People think that was his whole big deal, but his biggest paper was actually about the photoelectric effect. And it took understanding that light could be quantized to explain the photoelectric effect. Now, people had seen that it occurred, but we had no real reason why. So Einstein comes up with this idea, well, light is quantized, and not that long after, when Schrödinger wrote his paper about what his equation implied, that it was a bit about probability, Einstein was made the famous comment, God does not play dice with the universe. And yet, really, what Schrödinger was describing was basically magic. We don't understand certain things, and Einstein said, well, then, throw it out. But I truly appreciate that Sin Esther, I'm going to keep calling you Sin, I don't remember who it was, but Sin puts up the quote, science is the handmaiden of religion. To a certain extent, that's true. And, to a certain extent, it's true. Christian has said, do not twist the words of God to make your point justified. I would say the same. Do not twist the words of my science to justify your God. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back to YouTube. Here we go, because I got some good ones. Nicola, yeah. Jerks attack me. There you go. So you stop telling anyone you're trans. Oh, leads to imposter syndrome. Well, that's a bummer. Louise Richardson asks, if I tell someone to go to hell. Oh, hey, Ash Logan. Hi. Oh, look at that. Oh, you got some good ones. Thanks, Ash. If Louise asks, if I tell someone to go to hell, what of it? I'd be telling them to go somewhere that doesn't exist. I think that's a fascinating, it's a fascinating thought. It's a good thought. Paganism, just to throw this out, paganism implies at this point now, modern paganism, neo-paganism, only implies an earth-based religion. So it's respecting and revering the processes of the earth. Animism is one form that leads to paganism. There's also pantheism. So the 2 ways that I look at the universe is pantheism, which is that the universe itself is one big, huge goddess. And that you'll find that also in Hinduism, for what it's worth. But animism as well, the idea that everything has some sort of life to it. If we look at modern physics, it's kind of implying that everything does have life. And if everything has life, then the universe itself must in general be living. In which case, both of those 2 things I just mentioned, pantheism and animism, maybe I got that actually from my modern physics courses. Who knows? Colin Richard, could I go over the science? Just curious. If you want to reach out to me directly, please do. I'm getting ready to wrap this up. If you ask your question again, I'd love to answer it, but I'm getting ready to wrap this up. All right, let's see. Christian says, gosh, I feel like I'm in the middle of a Tones on Tail album. Christian says, I don't know if anybody remembers Tones on Tail, which was a Love and Rockets incarnation, but if you don't, there you go. That was one of the songs on their on the album. Christian says, your science will have you in purgatory. If you still believe, I will pray for you. You know, Christian, if you want to pray for me, I would appreciate it. Thank you. I don't think that I've done anything wrong. If you believe that your God would hate me for who I am, I think it's a bummer, personally, because I don't think your God is capable of that. So, all right, let's see. There's a big Trump here. Okay. Live it up. Praying for you, wrap this up. Funny thing to say. Tony apparently thinks that wrap this up, in terms of finishing something, is a funny thing to say. All right, live it up. All right, let's see. So Christian says, again, I don't believe he'll hate you, but I will believe you will be rightfully justified. That's all. You know what? There's the thing. I would have to say the same to you. I have to say the same to people who have thrown hate at me. Jesus has said, love your brother as yourself. And I don't believe that's what I'm seeing here. And yeah, maybe I will be rightfully justified. Hopefully some God will come out and go, hey, you were a dick to Amy that one time. It was November 2nd, 2024. Don't be a dick. Go back to purgatory. So, okay. Justin Batten asks an interesting question. Do I have opinions on children wanting to transition? Yes, Justin, absolutely. Because I did. When I was probably 4 or 5 years old, this would have been early 1970s, I knew I was going to. By 12 or 13, bye, Joanne. By 12 or 13, I had made plans to transition. So do I have opinions on it? Yes. God, I wish that I had been able to find any kind of information about it. It would be phenomenal if I could have had puberty blockers, which existed at the time. But I didn't know anything about it. And I wasn't able to find anything about it because, the internet actually didn't exist then, believe it or not. So I believe it's important for parents, first of all, to know that these things occur, to know that their children are not weirdos, that it's appropriate to continue to love your children because your children are there to develop identity, not to be your little Barbie dolls to do what you want them to do. So I do have opinions. I don't know if you wanted more opinions about that, but that's what I've got. So Tony, however, who also said wrap it up was funny, says that the parents intentionally failed them. Really? So I don't know, Tony04. If you had ideas that you wanted to play, let's say, football, and your mom said, no, you're going to get hurt. Is that your parents intentionally failing you? Because I would say it would be the same thing. If your parents tell you you have to be who they want you to be, that is failing. That's absolutely failing. Because some point, Tony, your parents are going to be gone. And you're going to need to have your own sense of identity. There you go. It's a bummer. All right. Let's see. A civilized mind asks me, I can play Barbie, but not the parents, right? I've dyed my hair purple, obviously. So yes, clearly I can do whatever I choose. I am not hurting anybody. If you look at, if you come into here, my live stream, and you go, wow, you have ugly purple hair. Okay, you can go. That's cool. I'm not hurting anything or not hurting anybody. And as a result, yeah, I can dress however I damn well please right now. So Quentin925, I don't know if you were the same person who mentioned this last time. The study on mental health and puberty, you didn't spell it right, but the results on mental health and puberty blockers results were so bad they didn't release it. Stop. I don't know if that was supposed to be like a telegram. I think so. They didn't release it. Stop. Okay. So I have not, ultimately somebody sent me an article. It contradicts about 70 years of what turned into WPATH has studied. So, I mean, science works on reproducibility. And you may have one study that says that mental health is not correlated, mental health of children with gender dysphoria is not correlated with prescribing puberty blockers. It's really easy to do things with statistics, is all I'm trying to say here. One study does not destroy an entire field of science. Science is something you keep on looking at. And one study after about 70 years worth of study, I'm going to say, okay, great. Sure, there's one. All right. Civilized Mind said that wasn't a question, AGP man. I hope you're satisfied with yourself, civilized man. I don't think I would call that civilized, personally. Like, what a bummer that what you have to do on like a Saturday afternoon is come in and like poke fun at people, call them names. It's a bummer. It's really a bummer. Matt, I keep meaning to say, to reach out to you, but like today, I totally forgot that I was gonna do this. And it was like 12:50, no shit. And I come in the house and I go, oh, I probably should have done this. Next week we'll do it. But let's see. So somebody has asked me, who am I voting for? I already mentioned I'm not going to talk about politics. So there you go. All right, I'm going to go back to YouTube. Almost done here. I'm going to talk for 4 more minutes and then I'm all done. All right, so let's see. So Nicola here says that she is intersex, found out she was an XX male syndrome long after transition. Does it explain why? I don't know. There are studies that will correlate hormone levels with gender proclivity. I'm not even sure what words I want to use here. I don't believe it's all biochemistry. I don't. Because I don't believe that your body is ultimately what defines your identity. So it couldn't possibly be all just biology or biochemistry. The thing I was going to say, I started off, when I first started estrogen therapy, within 2 weeks, I felt so much better. I felt really much calmer and much clearer. My psychologist asked me, hey, do you think it's because it's all biochemical? And so I had to think about it, and I still believe the point is no. I mentioned it appears I have an intersex characteristic that I never finished that story. I was able to make a ton of testosterone, I just wasn't able to use it. So it appears I have a partial androgen insensitivity syndrome. But I guess all I'm trying to say here is, even though I got estrogen that would probably start modifying my biology more quickly because I couldn't use testosterone, I still think what happened was that I was doing something for myself, that I was doing something that made me feel better about myself. And so it's hard to say. I think it was a combination that it was both biological and psychological, which is why I'm, that's my philosophy today, my theory of identity. So Annette Bernier says, great show today. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Annette. I appreciate that. I am going to start shutting this down because why not? All right. I am very glad for everybody who showed up today. I got all kinds of incredible comments through TikTok and through YouTube. I know that some of you don't like me. I wish that some of you would listen to me. By all means, if you want to talk to me, I would hope that you'll reach out to me. The first URL there, amethysta.io, you can actually send me, bye Phoebe. If you want to send me emails, you can actually do that. So, let's talk. The reason why I do this, I did this today because I didn't have a phenomenal topic to discuss, but I absolutely adore that there are people who want to continue this conversation. Some of you are way out there, and some of you are just going to be jerks whether I want you to be or not. So there you go. Thanks very much. Be the change. Love you. Have a great night. Thank you again. Everybody, everybody, everybody. I'm going to throw you a heart to everybody. All right. Bye.